Becoming the best version of ourselves often requires that we stay. Stay in community. Stay in the boring, and stay in the challenging, in the discomfort. This is such an interesting idea of recognizing that to have integrity, we need to have alignment between our inner convictions and our outer actions. Inner convictions of being part of the beloved community we hope to create, and staying even when this community isn't always beloved. Inner convictions of worth and dignity, and outer actions that match. Inner convictions of show respect, communicate for understanding, participate in community life with trust and commitment, and expressing encouragement and appreciation. And outer actions that align with these ideals. January, we have been focusing on this idea of integrity. What does it mean for us to find a ritual of integrity with our fire communion service? But also, how do we maintain our sense of integrity when we don't always see the alignment in our words and our actions, like some of our Unitarian forebears? But another important aspect of January, especially to those who have stronger ties to the United States, is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a day originally organized and promoted by labor unions, but later supported by the general public to be passed as a federal holiday in recognition of civil rights. But besides civil rights and African American rights, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was known for making popular the idea of beloved community. The King Center, a resource center, community institution, and memorial center, which was opened in 1968, with the mission to prepare global citizens to create a more just, humane, and peaceful world, using Dr. King's nonviolent philosophy and methodology, have to say this about his philosophy on beloved community. It is not a lofty utopian goal to be confused with the rapturous images of the peaceable kingdom, in which lions and lambs coexist in idyllic harmony. Rather, the beloved community is a realistic, achievable goal that could be attained by a critical mass of people committed to and trained in the philosophy and methods of nonviolence. Beloved community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. Poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. International disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation of adversaries instead of military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred. Peace with justice will prevail over war and military conflict. Dr. King's beloved community was not devoid of interpersonal, group, or even international conflict. Instead, he recognized that conflict was an inevitable part of human experience. But he believed that conflicts could be resolved peacefully and adversaries could be reconciled through a mutual, determined commitment to nonviolence. No conflict, he believed, need erupt in violence. And all conflicts in the beloved community should end with reconciliation of adversaries cooperating together in a spirit of friendship and goodwill. Reverend King's description and discussion of beloved community, to me, speaks of a community living with integrity, a recognition of the inner convictions meeting the outer actions. One thing that I recognized as I was reading through the material on the King Center's website was that in many places it was spoke about the beloved community, not a beloved community, and how beloved community is a global commitment and vision. So often in the past, when I have spoken, thought, or preached about beloved community, it has more to do with one community becoming beloved. One community, usually my faith community, but also a community of friends and family that we're striving to achieve a state of belovedness. But as I read through this material, I recognize that no one community can become beloved, because beloved community is when all of life is together, living into right relations. So what does this mean for Kelowna Unitarians? How does Reverend King's description of beloved community and the ability to stay in community when things get challenging or boring, and the concept of integrity have to do with this little community here? In December, the board here at KU agreed to meet 2 times a month for the next few months in order to start working towards a longer-term understanding of who our faith community wants to be and how we want to engage our work. In the last 18 months, the board has been doing a lot of maintenance work of running a church, focusing on hiring staff, finding volunteers, organizing cleanup sessions, and supervising staff. We have not spent a lot of time looking at the future of Kelowna Unitarians. We have been maintaining to the present. And so we will be using these extra meetings to begin discussing what that future might look like and what steps we want to take towards it. We are going to begin to talk about our mission and our vision. Getting a firm understanding of what our purpose is, we will also be able to have more in-depth conversations around goals for our future. Not just growth goals or healthy congregation goals, but goals that speak about who we are going to be out in the city of Kelowna, about how we will help lead our city towards an understanding of Reverend King's beloved community. Perhaps we will continue to build our relationships with the Canadian Mental Health Association and move in sync with that relationship towards a more beloved community. Or perhaps we will recognize that our energy is calling us to recommit to being a welcoming congregation, get recertification, and explore opportunities for relationships within other communities in Kelowna, working to create more justice for LGBTQ+ folks. Perhaps we could recertify as a green sanctuary and become more engaged with other environmentalist movements within the city. There are so many different ways in which we can focus our energy, our commitments, and our time. I believe that one of the struggles with finding our sense of integrity is going to be honing our commitments down to what we can fully commit to, and not overcommitting and underperforming. As soon as we choose to put our energy into more than one area or more than a few connected areas and issues, we can quickly lose focus or take on more than this community can manage. By sticking to our community intentions and making clear our community values will allow us to ensure that our community will have integrity. We will be able to hold discomforts and stay with situations when they go wrong. We will be able to find integrity in the way we treat one another, but also in our relationships with outside organizations and other faith communities in the city. Another aspect that's really important in Reverend Dr. King's work to beloved community is the practice of nonviolence. King believed that this was most important when it came to social action, but nonviolent communication is also a key point that needs to be lifted up as well. Recognizing that there is something for which we would normally argue about, disagreeing or cause frustration and harm with our words, and allowing ourselves to find a compassionate way to communicate them instead. This is something that I still need to practice more. At our last board meeting, there was an aspect of my work here that I was really unhappy with and that I believed needed to be changed. Rather than going to the board meeting with demands on how things needed to be different, and that I was going to be taking control, I was able to pause and observe the struggle I was having. I identified the feelings that I was struggling with, and I discovered what my needs were. And then I was able to make a request to the board about making changes. Instead of slicing open a pillow full of feathers, I was able to stay with my own discomfort of the situation that I did not really have control over, and ask for the support that I needed in doing my work. Being able to recognize different aspects of beloved community in our interactions, and especially in our interactions with each other in this room, will allow us to work our way towards a community of integrity.